call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome back to the Pod at the Palace. I'm your host, Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas. Shout out to the Coffee Club holding down the fort bright and early this morning, and to everyone else making us a part of your day throughout the day. We're feeling pretty good around these parts, wouldn't you say? I mean, come on now. The Razorbacks coming off a big win. There's this weird thing right now called optimism and positivity around Arkansas athletics in general at the moment. You love to see it. Got a lot of national folks saying some really nice things about John Calipari and this Razorback basketball team for a change. Nick Saban would call that rat poison, I think. But I tell you what, I'm going to embrace it, at least for one more day here, because we all deserve to feel good about something every once in a while. And I have a feeling that for the most part, we're going to be feeling pretty good about this basketball team for the next several months. We're going to preview Fresno State in the morning because it's, interesting game. North Little Rock, it always gets weird at Simmons Bank Arena, right? The atmosphere is always awesome, but for whatever reason, the games tend to be a little bit crazy, a little bit off the rails, a little bit wacky, too close for comfort. It seems to be the case more often than not. It's a little bit of a trap game scenario for Arkansas coming off of a huge home win, over Louisville. You get that top 10 win. You're feeling great about yourself. Maybe you're looking ahead a little bit to your next game, which is that, Sweet 16 grudge match from last year against Texas Tech. So can't overlook anyone there. We'll dive into that full preview. We got time for that tomorrow. But for today, we do have some fun stuff lined up for you. You guys know the trend, I guess it's a trend now, on social media where, someone posts a hot take or something that doesn't age very well or whatever, and you see a bunch of people responding or quote tweeting it saying, update, bro. Hey, update. Well, we're going to update Arkansas's resume here this morning, and it's amazing how much a difference can make. And we're going to update the SEC best wins and the net rankings list that we did earlier on Monday. We got a lot going on. We're going to take a look at the SEC team grades for the first month that CBS Sports put out there. We do the report card around here, so we're the ones that are going to be grading the Razorbacks, all right? But in all honesty, I want to see what they have to say about the Hogs, and we'll see if we think it's a fair take from somebody nationally. We're going to talk about the importance of Malique Ewin's emergence for this basketball team, which I think looms very, very large. And I also want to take a few minutes at the end of the show just to see if we can kind of zero in on exactly what Arkansas's best lineup is, which probably different than what we would have said a week ago, certainly different than what we would have said, in the preseason or at the beginning of the year. But it's always interesting to see how these things evolve, and I'm sure it'll change again before it's all said and done there. Hey, folks, if you're looking for, let's say that you can't make it to North Little Rock for Saturday's game against Fresno State, but you're looking for a place to hang out and watch and have some cold beer and good food, you got to check out Goat Lab Red. It's your new game day destination in Fayetteville. Stop by Oak Plaza on North Garland and get you some of the best brews and burgers around. You can sip on signature Goat Lab brews like Razorback, Tusk, and Tusk Light. We've been out there a few times now for live shows and just to relax and catch a vibe and have a good time. And that's exactly what it is every time. It's a good time. So listen, it's Goat Lab Red in Fayetteville. It's your new Razorback game day tradition. Go check them out. I'm sure we're going to be back out there soon. And we might be doing some Pot at the Palace post-game show stuff out there. Once we get an SEC play, that's going to be fun. Our SEC basketball podcast is going to get rolling here in the next few weeks. I mean, SEC basketball season is right around the corner. I mean, it starts at the beginning of January. We're less than a month away. And, we just needed to get on the other side of this coaching search madness and, the football season that we still had to cover, even though it wasn't that much fun. And now that's on the other side of us. And me and Andrew are looking forward to getting this SEC basketball pod rolling. And we're going to have, guests on who cover other teams and some national analysts who, view the SEC and talk to a bunch of people, get a lot of different perspective. It's going to be a live show. It's going to be Monday nights. So make sure you put that on your calendar and be nice. There's going to be other fan bases who are going to be in there interacting with us, but that's going to be part of the fun of it. So I'm really looking forward to getting that thing rolling. But anyway, let's get into it here today. If you remember, just a few days ago, we were looking at Arkansas's resume early, of course, but it's always fun to take a look at that and kind of see where you stand, the areas you need to improve, so on and so forth. And, it left a bit to be desired, frankly, for Arkansas. Some folks were frustrated then later on Monday with, where the Hogs debuted in the net rankings. And we tried to kind of explain why things looked the way that they did and how quickly they might change if you get the results you're looking for this weekend or this week, and they're halfway there. So I just want to show you guys the difference that one game can make. So let me go ahead and pull this up here. A peek behind the curtain, by the way. Okay. I had already recorded up to this point, I don't know, 15 minutes ago or something. I pulled this graphic up and I got to talking about it, and I can see it better on my other monitor, but not what I had pulled up on my screen. I got through my whole spiel, and then I looked and I realized that I had last week's team sheet for Moore and Nolan pulled up, and I was like, damn it, that's going to be confusing. So I started the whole thing over, and here we are. But I think I kept my same energy, so that's good. That's what happens when you start doing this and you're a little bit tired, I guess. But at any rate, where do we start here? How about this? A 12-spot jump in the net. You beat Louisville. You go from 45 to 33. That's good. It's nice to know that you get a big win, and yes, people with eyeballs were able to see it, and you're getting some love for it. These computers who you feel like, man, these computers hate Arkansas. How can a computer hate the Razorbacks? Well, they saw it too, and you've been rewarded for it. So that's good. Good to see. I don't know. You automatically can breathe a little bit easier when you see something like that. Another thing that's a lot different, when we did this, not Monday a few days ago, but the previous Monday, the first time we looked at it, Arkansas' strength of schedule was 318th out of 365. And we were like, wow, dude, they played a road game at Michigan State, but we talked about how that flips so quick because right now all these low majors and mid majors are playing all the bye games against high major opponents. And so their schedules are loaded up, and then they play their crappy league schedule, and Arkansas gets an SEC play and it flips. Well, it's already starting to flip. Like you played Duke and you went from 318 up into the hundreds. You played Louisville and you look up and all of a sudden your strength of schedule is at 37 in the country. That's really good. I mean, it's only going to continue to climb the next couple of weeks here as you continue to challenge yourself. So that's a good thing. And, all of a sudden you see Arkansas and their top 30 in all the predictive metrics, up to 29th now in BPI. They started at 43rd. 30th in KenPom. Now they started at 29th, but they had dropped outside the top 40 for a minute there. So they're making their climb back up. Torvik has them in the top 20. So great. That's where you want to be at this point. Would you like to be a little bit higher? Sure. But you've kind of absolved yourself of any damage that was done to the resume a little bit earlier in the year. So I like it. And I mean, honestly, the thing about this too is that preseason bias, like the stuff that they had to put in there from like historical trends and, projections and, what guys did last year or whatever, they have to bake some of this stuff into their formulas just so they can get a baseline for you. And that's why we saw Arkansas rank lower in places like BPI and KenPom or whatever than maybe we thought they were expected to be. But the more you play, the more that fizzles out, and we're getting closer. I think we're about 2-3 weeks away from all that being out of there. And then these scores are just going to be reflective of the ball that you've actually played. So keep playing good ball, and it's going to show up in these particular metrics. And then you got your resume-based stuff. And, hey, man, look, this is great. A strength of record up to 23. That's really strong. Wins above bubble, which is that new metric that they've got in there, which is basically how the average bubble team would rank against your schedule and how you're performing comparatively. Well, that's good. Arkansas is at 20 there. KPI, which, by the way, saw somebody in the comments, say, and yes, I do read your comments, most of them, and Michelle does too. But somebody said, man, it would be nice if, maybe for a filler episode, we talk about all this stuff and it's interesting. Maybe we get a better explanation of, all these computer rankings and how this stuff works and what it means. And we did that a couple Mondays ago, but someone said maybe we could do that and it could be a good filler episode one of these days. You're right. And so we will. And, after Saturday, we've got a full week between games. So we will absolutely take a segment next week and go a little bit deeper and nerdier into the math. That way, maybe some of you guys who don't have as great of an understanding about this stuff get it. That way, when we're talking about it, because it's going to become more and more important as we continue the journey through the season and get closer to Selection Sunday, because these are a lot of the things that the folks who select the bracket and seed you and everything else look at. So it is important. But at any rate, yeah, I was looking at it and I was like, okay, so man, your top 30 in literally everything on here, but KPI at 64. Like, what the heck? For what it's worth, I went and checked the KPI rankings myself, and it just hadn't been updated on this team sheet from Warren Nolan yet. I like using this one. They just it's the same stuff. They pull from all the individual rankings. They get it all in one place. It's nice and tidy. That's why I like to pull it up here. It just hadn't updated yet. So Arkansas's KPI is actually 49th. It's still a major outlier compared to everything else on this resume, but it's 15 spots higher than this graphic tells you. And that's 15 spots from beating Louisville alone, which is good. But, then you can see the quadrant wins and everything. Arkansas's got that quad 1A there against Louisville, which is huge. No bad losses on the resume. You got a quad 2 versus Winthrop, which is awesome that game is a quad 2. I hope it stays that way, and maybe it will. I mean, we're getting deeper into non-conference play here, and assuming they win a bunch of their games in their league, and I don't know who the heck's going to beat them in their league, then maybe they'll stay up there. I don't know. But looking ahead, yeah, Fresno State, they're at 163 in the net, so you need them to be top 160, and that just becomes a quad 3 instead of a quad 4. The fewer quad 4 games you have, the better. Every high major team in the country is going to have, a half dozen or so of them. Some of those schools, like you play 13 non-conference games and they have 9 or 10 quad 4 games, and that's weak. But Fresno's got a chance to be a quad 3 for you. Texas Tech, I mean, that's going to be a Q1 for sure. All you got to do is be top 50 in the net on a neutral floor. They're at 37, which is lower than I think they're going to be by the end of the year. They're only going to get better. Queens will definitely be a quad 4. They're at 202. Houston will be a quad 1. They're at 17. And then James Madison, also probably a quad 4. They're at 190, but they're probably going to be pretty good in their league. I could see them jumping up maybe to Q3 status. So at any rate, the pathway for Arkansas to get out of this non-conference slate with a top 25 net is very, very simple. Beat Fresno State, Queens, and James Madison the way you're supposed to, and split the 2 big games. I hope you win them both. If you do that, I mean, if Arkansas does that and they get out of this thing 11-2, and they'd have 3 quad 1 wins, no bad losses, at least 1 quadrant 2. Yeah, I mean, they would be pushing. They'd be top 15 if they do that. Split them, and I think you're going to be top 25 very, very easily. Okay, let me get rid of this. What else are we doing on our updates? Let's pull up these updated net rankings actually in the SEC and just see how they've evolved. This is not as cool as some of the other stuff, but because Arkansas is still in the exact same position in the SEC, which is 9th best in the net rankings, but look how far they've jumped, and then look how things have shifted a little bit. It's kind of crazy. Shout out to Vanderbilt. I mean, they're holding it down at number 4 now. They picked up a big win over SMU, blew them out exactly like we thought they would. You're just not going to go and beat Vanderbilt on their home floor unless you have some firepower. But Alabama at number 11, they got a close win over Clemson. I was wondering, why was it so close at home? Clemson's down this year. Alabama's, their backcourt was out. Aiden Holloway didn't play. Reitzel was out. So a nice win for them, all things considered. Georgia's at 14. That's not going to hold up. I'm just telling you right now, it's not going to hold up. And I'll explain why in a minute. But they've been playing well. I think they've got an opportunity to make the NCAA tournament, but SEC is going to catch up to them. Go ahead and bookmark that. LSU, same thing. They're at 16th right now. They beat Boston College in overtime. Boston College is one of the worst high major programs in the country. They just lost Jalen Reed for the season, who's probably their best player. That sucks, man. That's back-to-back season-ending injuries for that dude, and he's a good player. They're going to come back down to earth. I think it's actually going to happen on Saturday. They play Texas Tech. Kentucky at 20, that remains a joke to me. They play Gonzaga tonight, and I just don't see a world where that goes well for them. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better for Kentucky. eventually, I think they're going to be a pretty good basketball team, though. I know we like to make fun of them and their $22 million roster and everything. It's going to come down to health, though. Jalen Lowe's trying to work his way back in there. Is he a guy who is a program savior? No, but they definitely need some playmaking at the point guard position. He could help with that. He's a revolving door defensively, though. Mo Diabote, they've got to get him back from that high ankle sprain. You'll see how effective he is. But they were kind of struggling with those guys too. You know what I mean? It's all about Quaintance, though, for me. And I know he's been working his way through some conditioning and 5-on-0, and now he's up to some 5-on-5 against GAs or whatever. If if I'm Kentucky, maybe you have a greater sense of urgency, but do you wonder if they're rushing him a little bit? And I like Jaden Quaintance. I think he's a hell of a talent. It's going to take a while once he's playing basketball games to go from, okay, you made an appearance, to, all right, we can play you 10, 12 minutes, to, okay, you're in SEC level game shape, to, you're back to where you were, to now you're an improved player. You know what I mean? I think people kind of look at this and think, oh, well, once he's cleared, he's going to come back and he's automatically going to be a double-double that averages 4 blocks a game. And if he is, then he really is the freak that they were saying. But that's a tough sell. And I hope they don't push him too quick. And the last thing I would want for a guy like Quaintance is for him to just be trying to come back and help his team, and then he winds up in the Nick Smith, knee management camp or whatever because he's sore and stuff like that. So Kentucky, I'm not trying to tell anybody how to do their jobs, although I am a certified athletic trainer, but seems like they have had some mismanagement of injuries issues. But whatever. Tennessee at 22, they dropped after losing at Syracuse. Florida at 26, they've got to figure some things out in their backcourt. Good showing at Duke, but they lost the game. Auburn at 30, they continue to impress me. That was a nice win over NC State. Took care of business at home. Arkansas is up 12 spots to 33. Oklahoma, who was almost outside the top 100 on Monday when we updated these, they jumped up big time because they won a road game at Wake Forest. And it jumped them up a ton. Missouri lost a game, so they dropped. They lost at Notre Dame. Texas A&M is up after beating up on they beat Florida State. I can't remember who they beat in the challenge. Who did they beat in the challenge? Pitt. That's right. They went on the road and beat Pitt. So you get a road win that's going to help you. Texas got throttled at home. Virginia beat the hell out of them at the Moody Center, and so that's dropped Texas now down to 94th. South Carolina at 117. Ole Miss, who got popped by Miami at home, and Chris Beard's losing his mind, down to 121. And Mississippi State, even with their win over Georgia Tech, is at 143. Yikes. So you still might want Arkansas to be a little bit higher than where they are, but good grief, man. Some of these teams are in a tough spot right now. I remember that the year Arkansas, they debuted lower than we expected them to, and then they lost to Oklahoma at the BOK Center in Tulsa, and then they lost to Hofstra, and they were down there. I think they were like 89th or something, 90th. After that, I'm looking at these SEC teams right now that are even below that, thinking, gosh, man, that's a hole to climb out of. Okay, so now that we've done this, remember when we did the everyone in SEC's best win according to KenPom? Well, how about everyone's best win in the net, since that's more reflective, and that the selection committee uses the net rankings to kind of sort the quality of your wins. And because we have those now, we didn't have them when we did this list a little bit earlier in the week. So I'm going to pull that up real quick. And don't you like the way this looks, folks, after the Louisville game? I do, because we were looking at Arkansas, according to KenPom, and they were like, well, they had like the 12th best win. Congratulations on beating Winthrop. And we were doing the whole thing of, listen, they just got to get a dub to validate what we think about them. Well, then they go beat Louisville, and we pull this up for the net, and Arkansas has the best win in the conference. Louisville ranked 12th in the net rankings. That is the best victory that any team in the conference has. You love to see it. Now, you got them at home, and so there's that. And not many of these were true road games. Some of them on neutrals or whatever. But the best team that an SEC team has beaten is Arkansas beating Louisville. I like seeing that at the top. Tennessee with that nice win over Houston. Alabama and Auburn both have beaten St. John's. They're just the whipping boys for the SEC right now. And they play, I want to say St. John's plays Ole Miss this weekend, and I know they play Kentucky at some point here. So I'll be interested to see how those go. Vanderbilt still hanging on to that win over St. Mary's, which is a good one, but they've got three. They don't have any like wow wins. They got three solid ones. You know, they beat St. Mary's, they beat SMU, they beat VCU. So I think they've got a couple quad ones now. So good on them. Texas got that win over the Fighting Will Wades out in Maui. Oklahoma got the road win over Wake. That's 79th though. And then everybody else outside of that has only beaten teams outside the top 100 in the net, which is crazy. You know, Florida's win over Providence. That's the best you could do. In fact, that might not even be their best win, because then they beat Miami. I think Miami's probably higher than that. I might have overlooked one there. Let me just look real quick. We want to be accurate on this show. If we're going to be talking about the SEC, we got to get it right. Looking at their team sheet. Yes, they did get that one over Miami. So theirs would actually, Miami's 31st. So Florida's best win would actually be right behind Vanderbilt's there. So there's a little bit higher. Georgia with that win over Xavier, but they're a little bit down this year. We just talked about Florida State. They stink. Texas A&M got them. Missouri, you know, they're 8-1, but their best win is over Minnesota, who's 123rd in the net. LSU is undefeated. They're so high in the net rankings. Are they going to come back down to earth? Yeah, they are. The best team they've beaten is Drake, number 125. Ole Miss, good grief. Austin Peay's your best win after a month of the season. We talked about South Carolina and Southern Miss earlier in the week. Mississippi State went and got that win over Georgia Tech, and you're thinking, all right, cool. They went and got a Power 5 win. Is Chris Jans out of trouble? No, they're 206. They're bad. But how about Kentucky, man? Top 20 in the net, still ranked in the AP poll. Top 20 at KenPom. All the metrics love them. And they've lost every game of importance, and their best win on the season is to 221st ranked Valpo. Well, they're not ranked high in the Pot the Palace power rankings. I'll tell you that right now. Anyway, moving on. Today's episode is presented by our friends over at the Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas. We know that your vision is essential to your quality of life, and professional eye care is a must for you and your family. Their award-winning eye doctors are board-certified and professionally active, yet their patients talk most about how caring and professionally friendly they are. Every patient receives the best of new vision care technology plus old-fashioned personal attention. They've got availability right now for eye exams with their new provider, Dr. Rebecca Brown, as well as their other providers who are able to fit you into your schedule. Schedule an appointment with the Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas today at 479-442-2020. You can also check out their website at www.eyecenternwa.com for more info. All right, so shout out to, let me get rid of some of these things here. Shout out to our Auburn buddy, Quinn. If you're on Inside Arkansas Live, everybody knows Quinn. He sent me this article from CBS Sports where they just kind of assigned a grade to every SEC team for their first month of the season. Season started on November 3rd, and this came out yesterday. So, yeah, like I said, since we do our report card after every game, I feel like it's only right that we take a look at this. So I'm going to share with you the blurb they had on Arkansas and the grade, and then you let me know if you think it's fair or foul. I'll give you my opinion. You let me know how you feel about it. So where is it at here? I got a bunch of stuff pulled up. There we go. What he has right here, and he was using KenPom. Arkansas, they did debut at 29th, and they're KenPom ranked 30th right now. But it says, when the lights are bright, this Arkansas team brings it. Losses to Michigan State on the road and Duke on a neutral are nothing to be ashamed about. Arkansas is only the 32nd best defense in America right now, but there's a great unit in there somewhere. You saw glimpses of it in Wednesday's 89-80 win over Louisville. Arkansas held the high-powered Cardinals offense to just 1.05 points per possession. Yes, Louisville expects to make more than 8 of its 37 three-point attempts, but you go through the tape, and Arkansas's size, speed, and length forced a ton of tough looks. I charted 8 clean attempts out of Louisville's 37 threes. Everything else was hotly contested. That type of effort can't just appear in the biggest games. If this defense can bring it nightly, Arkansas is going to be brutal out because Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas are hard for anybody to keep under wraps. And Trotter gives them a grade of a B+ for their first month. So for what it's worth, the teams with higher grades than Arkansas in the SEC for their first month, Vanderbilt, who got an A+, and then Alabama and LSU. Which, I mean, I think that's fair, all things considered. By the way, shout out to Kentucky and Mississippi State, our charter members of the Might Be Ass Club, for both receiving F grades for their first month of basketball. It's not just us. We're not haters over here. We're just objective viewers of ball. You know, for Arkansas, which, by the way, how about that stat? Good on him for going and charting those. Only 8 clean attempts out of 37 threes for Louisville in that game. Well done. Excellent defense for Arkansas. How many open looks did Winthrop get? How many wide open looks did Samford get? And so you play a much, much better team, and you're out there contesting like that. So that's where I go to what he said a little bit later, which is that type of effort can't just appear in the biggest games. Exactly. Exactly, man. That's what we've been trying to say. Arkansas has done enough playing with its food. You would be amazed in the, like the difference in the metrics had Arkansas simply just not played patty cake with Samford and Winthrop. That's it. That's it. I think the B+ is very fair, by the way. In fact, that's probably exactly what I would give Arkansas. And, you know, like if you just took care of business against those two mid-majors, I know you won, but like if you got the style points out of it, I'd probably have given Arkansas an A-. Steal that one against Michigan State or get that win over Duke, and I'll probably give you a straight A. And if you beat both of them, I give you an A+, because then you'd be perfect, you know. But and I mean, I tend to agree with Trotter on Arkansas's defense having some very real potential as well. I mean, they sure look good in that one. And we saw them overwhelm some teams in exhibition play. They got to figure a few more things out, but they're just so long and athletic. And the way they play is, they switch everything because you're able to. That's so hard to operate against. They can press you. They need to get better about turning teams over. And now they're rebounding. And knock on wood that continues to happen, but they're closing out possessions on the backboards. There will be a big test from that regard next weekend when you get to see JT Toppin again. I've been having nightmares about that dude for like 6 months now, but no, it's good stuff, man. There's no question Arkansas, they're in a really good spot. They're trending up in the right direction here as we get a little bit closer to the start of SEC play. Shout out to, speaking of CBS Sports, Gary Parrish. He does his top 25 in one. The dude updates his top 25 rankings every single day, which is cool. But he moved Arkansas all the way up to 12th in the top 25 in one. So that's good. We were kind of thinking last night about, all right, well, the Hogs were at 25th, assuming they beat Fresno State and you got this win over Louisville, how far do they jump? And some of it depends on who else loses in front of you and what that stuff looks like. But also, people might just view Arkansas after doing what they did against Louisville and be like, damn, man, we gotta get these dudes higher. What was I thinking? And maybe that's something that Parrish did there. So, and shout out to John Rothstein. Did you guys hear that? You need to go to his Twitter and look at that clip that he has for Arkansas, basically saying that the Razorbacks are the SEC's best chance at having a Final Four team. He is a big believer in the roster construction and how the pieces fit together. Was highly complimentary of what the Hogs had going on. So you love to see it. You certainly love to see it. I'm still thinking about being out at Blue Ember on Wednesday before that game. I mean, it was almost the highlight of my day had I not have spent the night in Bud Walton Arena. But some good stuff in there. And, they've got 6 locations across the state of Arkansas: Fort Smith, Jonesboro, Texarkana, Little Rock, Hot Springs, and Rogers. And you see the phone numbers there on your screen if you want to hit any of them up. And I mean, the one in Rogers, at least, it opens at 10:45 in the morning. And we get there early. That way we can get set up and do our show at noon. And there's always a line of people waiting for it to open. And they go in there and grub out. And it's some good eating, man. But, you don't even have to go in there. Like, you need to take advantage of some of the great deals they have for the holiday season. And a lot of you did it for Thanksgiving. And it's the same type of thing for Christmas time, man. You can get a whole turkey that feeds 18 to 20 for $69.95. They got the turkey breast that feeds 12 to 14 for $54.95. A whole ham that feeds 18 to 20 for $65. If you're like me and you're thinking, well, I'm not going to have 18 to 20 people at my house. Well, I had 4 and a baby, and we had all this food. And guess what? Turkey sandwich tastes good the next day, and leftover day, the day after that. And you can keep mixing it up and get, a week's worth of food out of it. That's what we've done over here. But, Blue Ember, they can cater, events, weddings, parties, meetings, anything that you have going on. So make sure you contact them, check them out. www.blueembersmokehouse.com for the website. Thank you for supporting your local Blue Ember Smokehouse. Okay. Wednesday's game, the featured matchup is what everybody wanted to see, and we talked about it a ton. Obviously, it was Darius Acuff versus Michael Brown, and it lived up to the billing. Neither of them were super efficient shooting wise. One of them was 6 of 18, the other was 7 of 19, but they both wound up scoring a bunch. And Acuff obviously had the double, and they all had their highlights. They were trading buckets at the end of the game. That was great. 34 scouts in the building, which is a ton. But the guy who opened a lot of eyeballs and has folks who know ball who are now looking at Arkansas going, uh-oh, like these dudes could be scary. It's Malik Ewin. And John Rothstein, I saw, was on it right away. The Field of 68 and Jeff Goodman were on it right away. Wow. There's something there if they're being complimentary. But in all seriousness, guys, listen, you have watched all the games this season. We've been all over it from the jump. Malik was a guy who was expected to be the dude at center at the 5. And he was kind of lifeless for the first few weeks there. Was publicly called out by Cal. We were questioning his effort. He was kind of reaching the danger zone of, like, he was reaching Jalen Graham territory of, this dude might not even play that much. But they stayed with him, and we stayed with him, and he started to embrace the process and what they need from him. And he balled out on Jackson State. Who cares? Because Jackson State stinks. But I think there was just a level of, man, he needed that. And he had 21 points or whatever, but it just looked like he was having so much fun out there. Remember, he was throwing like the behind the back passes in transition and the behind the head stuff, and was catching lobs, and he was celebrating. And it was like, I'm very glad to see that this dude likes to play basketball. He's got it in him, a little bit of energy, some passion. And then he had his moments against Duke, nothing crazy, but like the signs of life were there. You felt like he was getting close. And it turns out that all he needed for a breakout performance was to see a familiar foe who he's feasted on, and a little bit of a film session from Cal. I want to play what Cal had to say about Malik Euan after the game against Louisville.
I'll be honest with you. Malik Ewing doing what he did today got me going more than the W. Because we got his life, our team, all the stuff. And what we did, now, he did it. He performed. But I went back and I watched both Florida State-Louisville games last year. And I'm like, where's this guy? No fadeaways. No crumbling of the legs when I shoot it. No missing 2-footers. He balled and rebounded and played through bumps. I showed him the clip. I gave it to him. I said, watch it tonight, watch it tomorrow morning, watch it before the game. That's who you need to be. Now, because I'm that guy, I had to show the team. Look. So what it basically becomes is his choice. He can play that way or play like he's been playing. Does anybody want to play with him when he's that way? And what he did and how he did it, he's going to help us. He's going to help himself.
Love it, man. I love that. Like, you find a motivational tool, you know what I mean? And it's like, all right, he played really well against these guys in his last stop, so I'm gonna clip up a bunch of this, like, see yourself, performing well and manifest it again. And that's all great. And he's like, because I am who I am. And he just showed the whole team, just put him on blast in front of the whole team, which is funny because you're watching him ball out. And I could just see all those guys sitting in there. Who do you think was giving him the most? He was talking about the guys are, having fun with him, laughing at him, whatever. Who do you think it was on the team that was watching him torch Louisville in a Florida State jersey and was looking at him like, bro, where have you been, man? What is this? Probably Pringle. Pringle's a big boy. He could get away with it without worrying about making him mad. I could see Leak talking to him. Carter and Billy for sure. Not absolutely Carter and Billy, but that's good stuff. And it sounds like he's taking it all in stride. And if you remember, that was kind of the puzzling thing about this, because when you have effort issues or it looks like that, or your motor's in question, seem real nonchalant out there, it makes you wonder, like, does he have a bad attitude? Is he a bad seed in the locker room? What's going on? And that was one thing I wanted to make sure that I clarified when all that was going on was, hey, he's got to figure all this out. But every indication from the inside was that they love him. He was a great teammate, great in the locker room, and they're rocking with him. He's got to find out what makes him tick. And whatever they did, they need to do it again. I don't know if he's played Fresno State before, but if he has, send him some damn clips and let's see what he looks like on Saturday. Because, if Malik Euan is bringing that energy and that toughness consistently, Arkansas is going to be a nightmare to deal with. And because from the day he committed out of the portal, the objective has been simple and the vision hasn't changed. The only thing that's been keeping Malik Euan from being a pro, from being one of the best bigs in the SEC or in the country, is himself. So, can he tap into that motor and mindset consistently? Can he prove with the skill set that we know that he has, can he be a winning basketball player, like contribute to winning basketball? Well, then the thought process was, who better to get that out of him than a guy like Cal, who can, point to Boogie Cousins and Karl Anthony Towns and all kinds of others who came before him, who had more pedigree, but still bought all the way in and poured themselves into the team. So I can't wait to see what Saturday holds for Malik Euan. I'm rooting for him, man. I'm pulling for him to continue to hoop. And I know that we haven't seen anywhere near what he's capable of doing yet. And he's been pretty darn good the last 3 games. So there's going to be ups and downs. Here's what I ask you, folks who are listening to this. He's not going to be perfect the rest of the season. Okay, so if he has a bad game or an off game or whatever, don't jump right back off the ship, because you know what he's capable of doing. Stick with him. If Cal can stick with him, you can stick with him. But all this talk about Malik Euan, it leads me to our final talking point in the morning here, and where I asked you a simple question. Now that we're a month into the season, what is Arkansas's best lineup? And sometimes we do these things, and I look to make like a whole long segment out of it. So I give you like 10 different options, right? I'm like, well, if you want a shooting lineup, you do this. If you want a defensive lineup, you do that. No, none of that. What do you think their best lineup, the best 5 that they can put out there on the floor right now would be? Because in my opinion, it should involve Carter Knox, and it should involve DJ Wagner. And I think eventually, maybe, hopefully, it will, because those guys are going to settle in. They will. It's taking longer than we want it to, but they're going to figure it out. But right now, I kind of think the best group that Arkansas can put on the floor is the group that closed things out against Louisville. Darius Acuff, Malik Thomas, Billy Richmond, Trevin Brazile, and Malik Euan. Guys, I mean, if you haven't figured it out yet, Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas are good for it, okay? I don't care if they're freshmen, sophomores, senior citizens, Benjamin Buttons. These dudes are like that. They're good for it. And, they play well together. They complement each other on the floor well. Do they still have some things they got to figure out defensively? Sure. Of course they do. But they're both coming along on that end. And Malik Thomas, honestly, has been pretty solid. He's been fine defensively all year. And then he mixes in some really big-time playmaking on that end of the floor. Acuff was a turnstile, but thinking back to that Duke game and then Wednesday night, he's definitely making some strides over there. So, and they're also just so much of a net positive overall compared to the other options right now that I think you can live with a few mistakes there. But that's also where Billy Richmond comes into the equation here, right? I mean, he's the ultimate glue guy. He doesn't give a damn about how many shot attempts he gets up or how many touches he gets. He's just going to get active out there. He can take the toughest assignment defensively and take a little pressure off the young fellas. Hey, y'all want to take the shots? That's fine. I'll crash the offensive glass and get a tip dunk. Or I'll get a defensive rebound and I'll take it myself. Or I'll just get if I need a touch, I'll just get a steal. And now I'll go down in transition and hammer it on somebody. He's just built differently. Billy is. So I love having a guy like that in that group. I mean, Trevin, he's playing the best basketball of his career. I really don't think there's an argument there. I mean, in the few minutes that he wasn't out there against Duke and Louisville, I was tweaking a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm like, is he gonna check back in? Cal, did you forget about Trevin? Yo, get him back in the game. That's good. Now I'm glad that Cal is actually giving him a breather and not running him into the ground. But for my own sanity, I like having him out there all the time. You just feel better about him. Both ends of the floor. Now he's knocking down threes now. So much more comfortable off the bounce. Like he's more well-rounded offensive player, really competing. He just changes things with his length defensively. That's something that Pat Kelsey talked about afterwards. Is like, man, it's like his length on that end is crazy. He's contesting perimeter jumpers. He's recovering. He's meeting guys at the rim. Like he's putting it all together. A lot of season left, I know, but man, right now he's been awesome. And then Ewan, right now, I mean, and this is not prisoner of the moment. He takes your offense to an entirely different level. And in this particular lineup, if you think about it, you've got 3 big-time shooters in this group that space the floor and give a guy like Ewan room to operate in there. And it's not just room for him to operate and score, but he's such a good passer. You can run stuff through him and facilitate through him. The more space that he has to work with, the more dangerous he becomes as a playmaker. And he's rebounding better than Nick Pringle right now. So, if he's engaged and playing hard, I think he's the clear choice. I like this group to finish games because if you look at it, Acuff, Leak, Billy, TB, Malik Euan, I wouldn't have said this at the beginning of the year, but I can say it now. All those guys are good free throw shooters. So if you're playing with the lead, you feel good about any of them getting fouled and going up there and knocking down some shots at the charity stripe. So there's that part of it. It's a good rebounding group. Some versatility. You got some shooting. Not too shabby. And honestly, again, it's about who finishes the game. It doesn't have to be your starting group, but I don't think it's not a bad starting lineup either. Because I still do believe, and the more that he's playing 20 minutes a game or whatever, the more I wonder if they should just give this a try. I still think that the best version of DJ Wagner comes off the bench. He comes off the bench, he subs in for Acuff, and he's got, 3-4 minutes, whatever, right there to where that you're coming in and you're the leader of that second unit. And you can be more assertive and you can look to get downhill and you don't have to worry about sharing the rock with the freshman or whatever. And am I on the ball or is he on the ball? What does this look like? No, you just go in there and be DJ. And that's how you settle into the game. And then when Acuff comes back in, he doesn't have to sub in for you. You guys can share the floor together, but then you've already kind of acclimated yourself. You're already kind of into the flow of the game. And for Acuff, I don't really think it matters who he's playing with. So you might try that if you're Arkansas, just to see if it helps a little bit. You mix it up a little bit and see if that gets him going. because he's been playing fairly well. Like his energy's there, his defense is there, his passing has been there. He's not making a bunch of shots, but I don't, early on, I feel like DJ was just kind of wandering, like, where do I fit in? Still trying to figure it out. I'm not exactly sure what my role is. He seems more comfortable to me the last couple games. He's not making shots. So maybe bring him off the bench and see if that sparks something there. I think the same could be said for Carter, he could honestly be your ultimate rover, right? Like he could sub in for Billy naturally at the wing, or he could go get Leak if you wanted to get bigger, and have him and Billy out there on the floor together, which you've done, or he can go get Trevin if you want to go small, which might be the best way to go about that, and see how it looks early in a game. And then Pringle comes in, and he can maybe get back to his role as enforcer and rebounder and physical tough guy in there. So, and it's not that Arkansas hasn't been using this lineup; they have, but I would like to see more of it out there. I thought it looked pretty good, and the starting group looked good to start the game. DJ Acuff, Carter, TB, and Pringle. But your best group, I think it might be the one that finished that game against Louisville. Easy to say because they finished that one out. But the more I think about it, the more I've kind of talked myself into it. But at any rate, I think that's it. You're going to get out of here for the day, and appreciate everybody for tuning in as always. It's been really cool to see, all the folks. I guess like the end of the year, all those YouTube banners have been coming out. I don't even know how you find those, but it's like, I'm in the top 0.1% of Inside Arkansas listeners. I'm seeing people who's like, in the past year, you viewed 1,200 Inside Arkansas videos. And I'm like, first of all, damn, we did 1,200 videos. But second of all, wow, you really tapped in like that. That's awesome. And so many people have sent those to us. And that's crazy, man. That makes us feel really good. That's highly motivating, and glad that you guys are rocking with us. That's awesome. The Spotify rap stuff has been coming out, and some people have been, shooting the pot at the Palace over to me. And that's really cool, man. I can't get over it. So thank you guys so much. And looking forward to continue covering this team throughout the course of the season. Like I said, we're going to get that SEC basketball podcast rolling, and that'll be live and interactive. So, between the pot at the Palace every morning and, our post-game shows afterwards that are live and interactive, and this SEC pod that's going to be live and interactive. We got a lot going on the basketball front, and you guys know that fires me up. So if you are listening and you're new to us, or you haven't subscribed yet, man, just click that button while you're here. It helps us out a lot, and we want to be in that algorithm, you know what I mean? So, and turn those notifications on. So when anything happens, news breaks, we hire a defensive coordinator, Cal gets another 5-star or whatever, we go live, we talk about it. You can hop right in there with us. So again, going to get out of here for today. We'll do the Fresno State preview in the morning, but everybody enjoy the rest of your day. It's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas and the Pod at the Palace. We'll catch you guys tomorrow.